Hey, work from homers, Adam Schroeder here. We love bringing you this podcast, and thousands of you have proven that it's been helpful for you. But since time and online storage space aren't free, Naresh and I wanted to come to you personally to ask for your financial support through Patreon. Go to patreon.com/workfromhomeshow and help support the show. And we appreciate your support at any amount you choose. That's patreon.com/workfromhomeshow. Thanks for your support. Let's get to the show.
Forced to work from home by your employer? Laid off or feeling depressed at home? Do you want to make money working from anywhere? We'll show you how to do it from your couch. It's time for another episode of the Work From Home Show. Coming to you from their homes in Austin, Texas and Tampa, Florida, here are your hosts, Adam and Naresh.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Work From Home Show. Shout out to all our homies, homeboys, homegirls, home trans, all the work from homers out there. I'm Naresh Vissa with Adam Schroeder. Today we have Dhonielle Clayton on the show. She is the New York Times bestselling author of the Bell series, the author of Blackout, and the co-author of the Tiny Pretty Things duology, which is now a Netflix original series. She is co-founder of Cake Creative and COO of We Need Diverse Books, which seeks to increase representations of marginalized groups in children and young adult literature. She's also the host of the podcast Deadline City. So without further ado, Dhonielle Clayton, thank you so much for joining us on the Work From Home Show.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to talk to you.
Yeah, and you have quite the resume. Let's start with all of your books because you've written a lot. So walk us through all of your different New York Times best-selling works and your just overall journey.
Sure. I am a former librarian and teacher, and I became a writer because I wanted to make sure that the children that I was working with in my library could have fun things to read that reflected their experiences. And so I've got everything from thrillers to Shattered Midnight, which came out today, which is historical fantasy, to books for younger readers, to epic collaborations like I did Blackout with some fancy friends of mine. And so so Tiny Pretty Things, which is the Netflix show, it's set in a ballet boarding school where three girls are willing to do whatever it takes to be the best. My series with Disney, The Bells, is a secondary universe that's fantasy, where there are a set of girls who can determine magically what you look like. So it's about sort of decadent, looks like and sort of the beauty economy that we have going on even in our world, and how the way that you look determines how you're treated. And then I did a fabulous collaboration with some fancy friends of mine, Blackout, with Angie Thomas, Nick Stone, Nick Yoon, Tiffany D. Jackson, and Ashley Woodfolk. And it's about 13 teens who are experiencing a blackout in New York City, and they are also falling in love at the same time. So it's a fun, interconnected novel. I think in a nutshell, I've just been doing a lot of writing. I have a lot of things. And it all stems from me being a librarian.
Like you were saying, as a librarian, you're trying to get a mixture of books that spoke to, readers, every type of reader who came into your library. Has the advent of, self-publishing and the ease of which people can print their books without having to go to a publisher, in your opinion, has that changed kind of the popularity of books and made it to be a more diverse environment, or is it still pretty one-sided?
Well, I mean, there's a lot into that question. I think that self-publishing has always been an option and is a great, the indie book community is fabulous. I think that when so many people have been boxed out of traditional publishing, you have to build your own. And so hats off to independent authors who write and produce and, put out their own books. I know that it is valuable. I am not I am not a part of that community. I've never done that. I work in traditional publishing where I sell a license to my books to publishers. And I think that you can do both. I think that it's important that we do both, that we have a thriving self-publishing community, an indie community, but also that publishers, these big publishers, also diversify what's on their slate. And I think that the diversity and inclusion movement through We Need Diverse Books shined a light on how few authors from marginalized backgrounds get book deals and how the landscape of children's literature looks the way that it does because people have been systemically kept out of publishing and creating this sort of book ecosystem. There's so many voices that are silenced. So I think that they go hand in hand. And I don't think one is responsible for the other. I think we have a long way to go in terms of diversifying the shelves, but we are on the right path.
How come people from underrepresented communities got shut out from traditional publishing? What's the reason behind that?
Racism with a capital R. There's this thing people in publishing say, it's like, oh, well, who's going to buy those books? Right. So it's casting books that are written by and about people from marginalized communities aren't seen as commercial, aren't seen as marketable to everyone, and they aren't given a shot. And so we had a lot of that going on, just like any of the other sectors in our world, whether it's healthcare, politics, right, housing, education system. There is a problem at the core, which is racism and all of those things. And that's what has blocked people from getting their stories told and from telling their own stories.
Regarding like what you said, is there a market for, this ethnicity or this book about with an ethnic blend to it? I don't know whether that's true or not, but I just like talking to you, I've talked to many other people of color, and even myself. I'm a writer myself, and I found, that many people have good things to write, and they can sell copies of the books, but they just weren't given that chance. I don't know if that's a race thing or if it's something else, because I've even seen, let's say, white men who've tried to, we've interviewed them on our show. They've tried to go the traditional route. They got rejected, and they said, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and publish this myself. And they did very well. So I'm just wondering, have people proven, has your business model, has your company proven the traditional publishers wrong, and that, hey, there actually is a big market for minorities, for people who are not part of, quote unquote, the establishment? Are they selling copies? Are they doing well?
I mean, you can look at the New York Times bestseller list. I work in children's books and young adult books, and you can see how the marketplace has changed. And so I run an organization called We Need Diverse Books. And so what we do is we put out, along with the CCBC, which is a organization in Wisconsin that tallies up all of the diverse books that are published in a calendar year. So we have the data. We have the charts. You can see from how it's changing, how it's increasing. But we started with the data and the numbers to showcase how few books are written by and about different groups. And so the proof is sort of it's in the numbers. It's what publishers put out. And we have a record of those numbers. And so, yeah, everyone's going to get rejected when they enter publishing because that's the way it works. But it's about who gets a shot and who gets a chance, and how we can have 1 million vampire books that feature young white women, but we don't have them featuring other kids of color, right? Like at the same frequency. And so that's where these discussions sort of, come to, where the data doesn't lie, at least in the children's book and the young adult community. We can tally up the books that have diverse representation every single year, and we are still very much behind. I can't wait for the new stats to come out this year to showcase where we're actually at.
What's the way in which y'all have gone about getting the change to happen? Like how do you approach them? Because obviously you don't want it to be too confrontational, or they'll just probably kick you out in a lot of ways and say, this is the way it's done. We're selling books. So what's the approach you've been able to use? Because people can use this for, anything business wise, outside of just publishing. How do you confront the kind of mainstream and tell them what you're doing is wrong and this way is going to be better?
Well, it's about showing them what the data is. So We Need Diverse Books, we have several programs, and we get at this issue from a multi-prong approach. We go to publishers and we say, hey, we would love to sponsor internships to diversify your staff, to make sure that acquisitions are happening across the board, that you have a more balanced, opportunities given to young people who want to work in publishing, because the barrier of entry is very high, to take unpaid internships in one of the most expensive cities in the world, New York. We also work with other writers, up and coming writers. We have grants. One of our first grant winners for the Walter Grant, which is to give unpublished writers a stipend so that they can take time off to finish their book, or they can buy a computer or whatever they need. The first one who won our award was Angie Thomas with The Hate You Give. She finished The Hate You Give because she got a stipend and a grant from We Need Diverse Books in order to replace her computer so she could finish the manuscript. And her book sort of revolutionized a lot of young adult fiction. So, we talk to publishers, we talk to authors. We also work with schools and libraries, giving them the resources to be able to buy these diverse books and to be able to have shelf talkers and talk about them, and book talking guides and things for their bulletin boards and things to go to their districts and their administration, buying lists, right, to help them help their constituents and help their patrons. So, and then we talk to parents about making sure that they can have access to diverse books. We give away tons of them every year. So we have a multi-prong approach to helping to change the industry, and it is working because the numbers increase every single year of diverse content that is put out by diverse content creators.
I think that all sounds really, really good. Are you guys a nonprofit or for-profit? How do you get your funding, or do you charge the clients who come in?
No, it's a nonprofit.
Okay.
So we get donations and grants.
So it's completely grant-based, donation-based. And if, let's say we have some listeners right now listening to this episode and they have some good ideas, how can they pitch their work to you? How can they get in touch with you?
The organization is here to work with publishers, authors, and such. There are programs you can go to weneeddiversebooks.org and find out more about our programs. If you want to volunteer to help us with our initiatives, we have a place that you can do that. It's not really a place to pitch work. It's where you come and help work on the different programs to make sure that we are, getting the books that the next generation of readers needs.
Where is the biggest need? I mean, I know you work in children and the young adult literature, but kind of does it get any more diverse as you go up in age range, or is it pretty much all the same numbers throughout?
Well, we work with children's books and young adults, so I don't know about the numbers in the adult market, and adult publishers are much more resistant to putting measures in place to make sure that their lists are diversified, that their authors are diversified, et cetera. They're slower to the uptick, but I do think that they are also starting to join this conversation about making sure that there's balance. So I think that the children's book marketplace is setting the stage and the tone for what everyone should be doing, what all publishers should be doing, taking inventory, seeing the numbers. Are you publishing a wide range of voices? It's only good business. It's good business sense. We can even see in Hollywood and in TV that shows that are diverse, movies that are diverse bring a huge audience. The more people you can reach, the better your bottom line. And so I'm hoping that the adult marketplace starts to open their eyes and change. But I'm proud of these books. We're doing the work.
Yeah, you said you're the co-author of Tiny Pretty Things, and it's now a Netflix original series. Can you talk about the process of how you were able to turn that into a Netflix original series, and how our listeners can find that?
Well, authors write books and then Hollywood comes calling and they option books. And so really my producers came and wanted to option the book. And they made the show and then they sold it to the distributor, which is Netflix. And yeah, I got to go along for the ride. I wasn't involved in the show at all, but I did get to go to set, which was really fun because it felt like I was walking through a dollhouse of my own imagination. But when you write really good content and when you write really great books, oftentimes producers can see that visual adaptation into that next medium. And it's the author's dream to have something that they've written translate like that. So I feel very honored.
Your Cake Creative Kitchen, can you talk a little bit about that initiative?
Sure. Cake Creative is my company that I founded, and it is an IP company, intellectual property, story kitchen. So basically, I take pieces of my own imagination and I give them to up and coming writers to launch them into publishing. I wanted to send the elevator back down and help other writers who were struggling to break in that were from marginalized backgrounds, and giving them sort of a crash course in publishing. And making a book is much like making a cake. There are many ingredients, and if you had to have the same flavor of cake for the rest of your life, it would be pretty boring. So that's my sort of metaphor for diversity. That is, it is important for us to keep putting things out into the world that set a new menu for the industry, that showcase that you can have stories that are commercial, that are page turners, that are super, you know what I mean, super good, that feature people from different backgrounds. And it doesn't have to be material that is pressing down on the bruises of one's background, that it can be a magic story. It can be a romance. It can be a space opera. Like you can have all of these big genre things and feature characters from all different walks of life. And it doesn't always have to be about the, you know, the pain of their background. So I've been having a great time sort of, you know, concepting stories and hiring writers to write them and working with them, collaborating.
That's Dhonielle Clayton. She is a #1 New York Times bestselling author of multiple books. You can go on Amazon, type in her name, Dhonielle Clayton. That's DHONIELLE, DHONIELLE. The website is dhonielleclayton.com, as well as CakeCreativeKitchen.com. She is the co-founder of Cake Creative, so that's CakeCreativeKitchen.com. And then her nonprofit, We Need Diverse Books. That's diversebooks.org, diversebooks.org. Dhonielle, any final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners or anything else you want to promote?
Sure. I have a fun new series that kicks off. I know we are here to talk about Shattered Midnight, which is part of the Disney Mirror series, and I'm the second book. And so there are 2 more books that are coming after mine, which are really exciting because you get to follow this family through what happens when you break a promise, a magical promise, and it brings forth a curse. So there are 4 books in that series. And then I have my first middle grade, which means for middle school and upper elementary school readers, that comes out May 3rd. And it's called The Marvelers. And it's about a global magic school in the sky where kids from all over the world come to practice and learn their magic. And if there are any aspiring writers out there, you can check out what you said, my IP kitchen. I am the founder of it and owner, and I love to work with all kinds of authors. So please submit and check it out. Cake Creative Kitchen.
Dhonielle Clayton, thank you so much for joining us on the Work From Home Show. To all our listeners, check us out at workfromhomeshow.com. If you have any questions, hello@workfromhomeshow.com. We greatly appreciate your feedback. Leave us a review on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, whatever podcasting platform you use. And until next week, keep on working from home.